So this is very similar to the previous one, but instead of stars, we want to have numbers that are strings. It's important to spot that they're strings, otherwise the tests won't run, because the number 0 is not equal to the string that contains 0. Now, there's a few ways we could solve this. The kind of hackiest way is to say range 10 times 10. And so let's print that just to see what it does. So that's giving us that. Now, what we're noticing here is that instead of creating a list of lists, this does an append where it just shoves it straight onto the end. So we can see that that's not going to work. So we need a way that we can produce lists of lists. So let's have another think about this. Let's do it the long way round, and then we can think of other ways that are a bit quicker. So again, we can call it, we'll make a variable called number square to be the outer container. That's these brackets. And then we'll say for I in range 10. And then when we're in there, we'll make a number row. Number row. And that's going to be an empty list too. And so for I, no, not I, we need another one. For j in range. Now, if you did I here, that would be the same I as that, and it would get really confused. Sometimes, like I think once in my whole life, I've needed to use a loop inside a loop with matching things, but it's extremely rare, and it's almost always going to be a bug. So then we want to append number row dot append something. Now, what do we want to append to number row? So in this case, every number in this row, in each row, is the same. So we need to work out which number is going to be the same all the way through. And in this case, j is going to be going up by 1 every time we go through that loop, and I is going to stay the same. So if we append I to that loop, it will stay the same. So now we say number square dot append number row, and then we would return number square. Now let's print number square as well. Just so we can see what's going on. Now, this is something that you really should draw a nice diagram of, because the idea of being in this row and this number staying the same while this one is changing, and then incrementing, and then this one changing and staying the same, is something that you're going to have to kind of get your head around. And it's one of the difficult things about programming, is understanding where each variable is at any given time, thinking this through. So let's run it, see what we've got here. So loops 3, so 0 0 0 0 0 1 1 1 1 1 2 2 2 2 2 2. So that's cool. And we can see here when we actually print it that we're getting whole rows like that. So that's pretty good. And I think that's probably the only sensible way to really do that. There are like more complicated ways where we would make the function the other way around, and then transpose them or something weird like that. But this is the clearest, nicest way to do it. So we'll get rid of that print so it doesn't come up when we run the tests, and that's that one dealt with. Just want to make a quick addendum to this one. In loops 3 and in loops 4, we're going to have to make this change as well. We're returning numbers. We need to return strings, so I completely forgot to read the tip. Notice that this needs to return strings of numbers, so call str on the number to cast it. So casting means to convert a variable from one type to another type. So we're currently appending I. We need to append str I. And be careful you've got your brackets all matched up correctly. And so when we run that, we can see, if we run up to here, loops 3. Oh, it's not going to show because we're not printing, but the tests will run on that. whereas before the tests would have failed because you were returning numbers, not strings.